One good thing about the rain though, since doing the window in the back, I've been able to make sure that there's no water coming in, because no matter how good your job on sealing, you always have that doubt. So one thing we're going to do today is take the trims that for some reason I put in the back out to see just how well that seal job is. And there's also another reason why I take the trims out.
You just wanna be loved. You don't wanna be free. You don't wanna be lonely.
So the coilovers in the front are actually quite an easy prospect, mainly because one, we've had them off numerous times now with the engine dramas, but they are upper and lower wishbone style, so your upper wishbone will foul when you try and take the coilover off. So the simple way to do that is either drop the whole subframe like we did before, you just drop the top arm off. So that's the first task. As luck would have it, I think the rear is a bit simpler, mainly because there's just not as much gubbins going on here. You've got the 3 bolts in the top that hold the coilover on. Once that's off, I don't think you need to take the top arm out, because whilst it does sort of capture the coilover's skinny enough, and we have loads of room in the bottom to get it out.
You just wanna be loved.
So it's starting to look a bit more like a car, which is good. We've got windows and wheels and stuff, but there's one last thing.
What is the last thing?
What is the last thing?
What is the last thing?
I can't remember.
Is there a last thing?
There's never a last thing. Look at it. There's never going to be a last thing. It's just going to be non-stop. So now we're going to go and look at this. This is not good, because that's the original seat I've since worked out, and this is not. Now if you look really closely, you'll notice that these are a different colour, and whilst that one doesn't have a wee bit that pops out for your knees, for some reason this one does, and it doesn't work. Oh, there we go. That's completely pointless, but apparently factory. So what I need to do is find a solution for this. And given that this car in its entirety is made out of unobtainium, you can tell that the solution is going to be whatever the driver's seat is will be the one that I need to get, so that at least it looks roughly OEM. So I decided to order one. It is a Recaro, what is it? It's a Recaro LXC. And I thought if it's an LXC, it'll be, you know, an LXC. So how do you get a Recaro posted? Yeah, you split it. Now, I'm not gonna lie, it's not great, but it is fundamentally.
It's a marked
improvement. It's a marked improvement. It's also, I don't know how you managed to get this. I'm going to guess that's dick rash.
I don't know how you wear it in the...
your big hairy balls because you drive a Supra, just
It's a bit strange.
it's a bit wild.
Even the bolsters are okay.
Bolsters are alright, but then I worked out that the bolsters are still not the same fabric as this. That's a kind of weird sort of suede dark grey. This I think's the same colour, whereas this is a sort of more knitted light grey. Marvellous. But it's the same seat, so we're making progress. Now, let's get this built up. It's now winter. That footage sat around for a while, and then nothing happened for 6 months. So why? Why have we not seen Supra stuff for some amount of time? I don't really have a great answer to that. Obviously we had the cutting out glitch, which that map sensor that I put in actually seems to have fixed. Taking it a good few number of drives and it's not causing any problems, but fixing one problem did kind of reveal a few others. So what's going on with the dream car? Well, it doesn't cut out intermittently anymore, but on full chat, it still cuts. Remember we took the HKS ECU plug-in thing out? Yeah, that's now re-enabled all the fuel cut nonsense. So whilst the car is more or less stock, despite the engine I've built for it, it does not like getting full chat boost, because there's obviously some amount of creep going on, and the stock ECU goes, no. Nor have I felt particularly compelled to put the HKS ECU back in, because it's very much a plaster fix on what's a bigger problem. The bigger problem being it needs standalone engine management. And that's not cheap, so I've thought, I'll carry on with some other things and come back to it. Coilovers have been great. I've not really got the car set up since then, but the knock's gone, so that's good. It seems to drive a lot smoother. But that's also uncovered more issues. The exhaust is torture. Paint, clearly. 2024 is going to be a busy one for me. But another thing that I'm going to have to think about is the big elephant in the room. So I took the engine, the box out, did all the engine bay, did all the builds, spent days on it, put it all back in. Remember we put the clutch in at the very start because it was whining between putting the clutch in and out. That wasn't the clutch release bearing. It's had a hard life in Japan, and I think the R154, which by today's standards is now breathtakingly expensive, is humped. It doesn't find gears well. It's got the classic fighting into second, but when I fire this thing up and take it a drive, it says fighting in a lot of gears. And that howl that goes away when I put the clutch in, like I say, it's nothing to do with the clutch, it's the delay shaft bearing in the box is properly worn. So that means it's going to need bearings, it's probably going to need synchros as well. And it's just a thing that now, having built all the engine and tidied the engine bay and put it all back in, I'm like, I'm going to have to take all this back out to deal with this gearbox. And not just take it out and deal with it. I either send it away, and I have found somebody that will overhaul it for a reasonable but still four-figure amount sum, or I do it myself. Now, I know I do everything myself in this channel, and I'm not really adverse to having a go at rebuilding an R154. But it does require specific pullers and tooling that I'm actually not equipped to do. I'm going to buy all this tooling to do one gearbox. I don't see me making a big thing about it. A, nobody on YouTube kind of cares, and B, it's not particularly exciting. So there's that. But there has been some developments coming with this that have made me go, right, we need to start filming again. Not the content, I'll be honest, this has actually been one of the worst performing YouTube series I've done, despite the fact that it was happening anyway, because I've always wanted this car. But yeah, I don't know how much more I'm going to persevere showing you guys this, because there's not a lot of you that really care. So I'm going to do it, but it's probably going to be a lot more summarised. Big events will get filmed, and then it's probably just going to drop by the wayside. Yeah, if nobody wants to watch it, I'm not going to bother. I've got other things to do as well. And that's been the third reason why we've not really dealt with this car too much. As you know, the low cost, the MX-5, those are actual things that people want to watch, but also I spend a lot of time doing. This just has things done to it when I have available funds and I want to progress that car that I don't need to kind of worry about making content with. So yeah, a whole load of excuses, but for those that do want to see this, let's wrap this up with fixing another no-niggle. A resonating, horrible, rattly exhaust. Well, with the exception of demolishing a gasket, this should be a fairly easy job. I don't think I've got a gasket around, you know that? It's annoying. That's a 2.5 balls. Anyway, the replacement box by absolute fluke is exactly the right length to replace this guy. So all I need to do is make sure that if I cut it right at the hinge, and this should all measure up nicely. Other points to note, we still retain one hanger on the old pipe, which means the alignment should be fairly simple. Similarly, the original Toyota box must have had 2 hangers that come up. This one only has 1, and they've shared 2 rubbers. First for everything. But you can tell exactly why this is humped. I mean, if I hold it, you hear the rattle. This isn't a fancy box, by the way. This is clearly some Japanese generic, like, not good, not HKS. There's no harm in getting rid of this for another generic box because that's worthless. So you can tell there's also been some car park evidence, which isn't the worst thing to get rid of either. So yeah, that should be simple. Watch how it isn't somehow. I don't know, I'll do something.
You just wanna be loved. You don't wanna be free. You don't wanna be lonely. You just wanna be loved. You don't want the feeling to leave. You don't wanna be lonely. You just wanna be loved. You don't wanna be free. You don't wanna be lonely. You just wanna be loved. You don't want the feeling to leave. You don't wanna be loved.
Oh, apologies for the hiatus. If it makes you feel any better, I wish I'd finished all this in summer as well, because it would have been a lot less cold. Anyway, that's all for the moment. We know what's coming with this. A gearbox, an ECU, and a respray. 3 massive expenses, but that is kind of the last of it. Well, it's never really the last of it when it comes down to a project car, but it'll certainly complete it for the moment. So that's all to come in the long, long distance, but this is how she is now. Isn't she lovely? There is, of course, other little bits and bobs I'll do as we go, so you might see some of this coming up again maybe soon. If that's something you're up for, hit the like button, because that always helps. And if you know of other Supra fans who might like this, do the share button too. That would be superb. Also, if you feel like being a bit more generous, patreon.com/toolsandtrack, because that's why you don't see any ads while we're doing all this wonderful stuff. And until next weekend, guys, drive safe.